Hakadosh Boker Or Daf Yomi Masechet Batra Daf Pei Het Amud Aleph 88a1. We were talking about in the Gemara where we said that Rabbi Baravi and Rabbi Chanina Baravi, they both said, Hacham Ma'eskina, what are we dealing with in our case? But if you remember, we were talking about, we're not talking about that he sells sluchiot, right? Or, for example, means the father, right? That he sells sluchiot, or the chenvani, which is selling sluchiot. We're talking about the sluchit was sent from the father in order to fill it up with the oil. Okay, just like we mentioned at the beginning. And therefore we said, it's avidah midat. What does it mean? If you're going to give to a child an expensive vase, right, or an expensive bowl, the father came and he destroyed it with his hands. Why? Avidah midat. Avidah midat comes, you're coming and you're destroying it. What's going on? So he says, Kigon shenetala lamudba. What we're talking about is that, for example, he took it to measure. And like Rabba, meaning like this. If right now the chenvani, which is a storekeeper, would have not touched this jug or this, whatever you want to call it, this receptacle, and the guy comes and he pours it inside, it was always in the hands of the child. So now the chenvani is patur from everything. Why? He came exactly the way he came. I poured it in, he left. That's it. The second I take it from the child and I'm going to pour inside, now I become obligated to come and to give it back to the hand of the father. Meaning I could not come and give it back to the child because Keilu, I'm going to say, no, the second that he gave it to me like this, now I have to come and I have to give it back to the father the way that I received it. And that's exactly what we're talking about over here. Okay? Everyone clear? Okay? So the Gemara says that basically the second that this boy came, this child, remember it's a child, he comes and he gives from the father this slochit, and now the guy comes and he's going to take it out of his hands to fill it up, he's obligated to give it back to him in his hands, meaning that the chenvani cannot be put at tatzmo and say, you know what, listen, you send your child with it, I'm going to send it back with your child. No. You yourself have to come and you're going to give it. Fine. But Rabbi comes and he says, this is maybe going to be only b'ba'alei chayim. Why? What does that mean? When you're going to come and you're going to hit the animal, you remember we're talking about a hikisha to be'ema and it moved. So therefore it's kilu that you caused it to work on Shabbat. Okay? That's called hikisha. Always the same thing. You remember with an animal, you come, you cause it to move, right? Usually you used to hit something, right? So he says here, there it's going to come and you're going to cause it to come and start making steps. Gavna, but in our case where the chenvani actually took it from the hands, Mi Amar, are we going to say now that the second that he takes it from his hands, now he's obligated to give it back? It's like the hashava. He's obligated to hashava tavidah, right? You're returning something. So you have the hashava that you have to obligated to come and give it back to you can't give it back to the child anymore. So he says, Elamar Rava, but rather Rava says, Ani va'arisha b'chabura targmina. I and the arisha b'chabura. Remember, the Ari is the lion of the Chabura. I mean, we're talking about one of the greatest of the Chabura, the Gadol of the Chabura. We translated it now. Who's the Gadol Shebe Chabura? He says a bizera. Umanu, it's a bizera. What are we dealing with? The Chemvani took it to measure for other people. Right? So now he becomes a shoel shelomidat. What does that mean? One more time. The son comes and he brings, right, this, let's say, jug. The chenvani, which is a storekeeper, has to fill it up with oil. What happens? He comes and he says, 1 second, perfect. It's got the shinaim, it's got the shnatot, it's got the for the measuring. Perfect, exactly what I need. 1 second, he takes it from him and he starts measuring it. And now he's going to measure for Rafi. He's going to measure for Jean Paul. He's going to measure for Jean Ben Chamin. So now it's really profit but he's just basically he's borrowing the utensil. Remember, it's a shoel, but it's shalomidat. He never asked permission from the father to come and start borrowing the utensil. So therefore, now it becomes a shoel shalomidat, which means he's borrowing without permission. That is the machloka between the chachamim. Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, more savar shoel havi, that he is considered a shoel. And once he's considered a shoel, just give it back to where he got it from. Meaning, if I borrow something from you and it's right over here, I could come and I could give it back to you. However, the more savar the chachamim hold, he's considered a gazlan. Because since he didn't ask for permission, he's considered like a thief. Now, if he's considered a thief, can you just come and put it back where you took it? No. You have to actually make sure that it actually goes, right, to a place where it's going to be watched over. Right. You remember that's what we were learning in the Mishnayot now of Mishnah Yomi, right? That if you come, exactly, that you basically, right, if you come and you steal something, you have to actually make sure that he gets back. If he never knew about it, of the stealing, and then he took it and you gave it back, and then he counted it, everything was normal, so then you're patur. But if not, he has to know that you returned it. Why? Because even though you put it back in its flock, Doesn't matter. Meaning, let's say, for example, let's say a person came and they stole a sheep. Now, I didn't know about that they stole the sheep. So they stole it and they put it back. And I didn't know that they stole it, and I didn't know that they put it back. Now, I come the next day, and I come and I start counting them, and it's full. And now something happens to that animal. The guy's patur. The gazlan is patur. Why is he patur? Because since I didn't... something happens, like an honest, something happens, all of a sudden the animal drops dead. Why? Because since I didn't even know it was stolen, so therefore it was like nothing ever happened. So therefore, the gazlan is patur, and I'm basically obligated for that. What happens if he didn't know? So that means basically I knew. That means they came, they stole from me. I knew they stole from me. Now the guy, he was embarrassed to give it back to me. So what did he do? He went and he put it back where he stole it from. He put it back. Now I didn't know he returned it.
What happened before he put it back? The milk.
No, for sure he has to pay it back. That's for sure. Because
the guy didn't know.
But it doesn't matter. If you come and you steal a pen and you use the pen, you still are obligated on the gezel on the actual you used, obviously. Now, again, could it be how much is the real value? Okay, well, then we get into a question, right? So here, though, what we're saying is that it's a gazlan. If it's a gazlan, you have to actually give it back properly. So now it's not enough just to give it back to the child. You have to go back to the father and give it back to the father in his hand. And that's a machloket between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim. Meaning, is a shoel shelo midad, borrowing when you do it without permission, is that considered like a shoel or a borrower, or is that considered a gazlan? So says the Gemara, Gufa Amar Shmuel says Shmuel, Anotel kli min ha'uman levakiro. If you're going to come, you're going to take a utensil from the uman in order to check it out. Remember, many times you come and you want to buy something. So the way they used to buy it, it's like nowadays, Amazon, try on before, right? Or I don't know exactly what it's called, right? Something like that. But basically, it's try before you buy, or I don't remember how it is, right? So basically, try before you buy or something. So basically, what's the concept? It's in the, I'm going to come, I'm going to take it, but I want to try it out first. So I'm going to take from the uman, the kli, and I want to check it. Vene'enas. Now, it was an honest, force majeure. Boom. What happened is it? That's it. Kaddish. What happens? He's going to be chayav. But says the Gemara, but he says one of these words, dafka, when the money of the kli is katsuv, meaning that there's a fixed value on the utensil, right? Because only then is there smichut dat that he wants to buy it the way that it is, right? But if there's no, meaning if it could fluctuate, maybe he was never going to buy it at all. So therefore, it's not going to be any type of smichut dat at all. There was a story. Remember any type of story, gavra. So there was a story. A person comes inside the Bet HaMitbachayim, inside of a kitchen, right, to one of these butcher places. Agba atma de bisra. So he picked up a thigh of the meat. Right now, he wanted to check it in order to buy it. But hadi de kava, when he picked it up, ata parsha man mamine. I came a parash, he says, and he grabbed it away from him. So imagine, he came in front of him. He says, you're chayav to pay. This actually could happen many times. Imagine you pick it up, you want to check it, and also, whoop,
you're in a store.
You're in a store. A break. Now, here you see. So you're right. Nowadays, you don't usually pay it, right, in a store. But technically speaking, here he says you're going to be chayav. He says, but when? If it's a fixed price, which is what it is. You pick up a jar of mayonnaise, right? Now they make it out of plastic, right? But once upon a time, and a lot of times they used to make it out of glass. Everything was glass, right? So imagine you pick it up, and now it falls and it breaks. It's got a set price. So if it's got a set price, here it's saying you have to pay for it, right? Why? Because you picked it up to check. But not because of the acquiring yet, because you still didn't do a kinyan, meaning you didn't pay for it. But the fact that you picked it up to check it, that's enough.
Pick it up or when you pay?
Well, when you pay, no. It is when you pick it up, but only after you pay. Because if you didn't pay for it, I cannot come and take your phone over there, pick it up, and say, John Paul, I just made a kinyan on your phone. Well, what does that mean? You didn't buy it for me. No, I'm going to give you the money. No, 1 second. So if it is that you told me you're going to pay me, and then you pick it up, then yes. Why? Because then it becomes like a loan that now you know you're going to pay me. But if you're right. No, you're right. Nowadays it's a little bit different because there's a umder. Remember, this is min hagamakom. Next story. There was a story that a person brought dluin are like the pumpkins, right? From the city of Pum Nahara, right? In order to sell them. So everyone comes and they start taking, right? So everyone takes one in order to check it. Now, what happened was he thought that he wasn't going to be able to take it because since he didn't see, he was getting upset. Like, what's going on over here? Amar lehu, he told them, Harem mugdashin l'shamayim. It's a gdesh to the shamayim. He says he cannot be magdish something that's not his. Meaning, since they already came and they picked it up, they were kilu zochenet. He cannot be magdish them anymore. So it doesn't help anymore. But basically, everyone they were picking them up to check it. One of these words, only if it's got a fixed price. But if it's not a fixed price, Yeshua is still in the owner's possession, and therefore he's still able to come and to be magdish. We learned in a braita. If you're going to take vegetables from the marketplace, and then you come and you started taking for yourself, right? And then you put it, right, in order to whether you're going to buy it or not buy it, even if you're doing it the entire day, you did not acquire it. You're still not chayav maaser, right? No, because you're trying to say, should I buy these ones? You know how it is with fruits, especially with fruits. I remember in certain places, right? They didn't let you touch the fruit. They would come and they would just give you the fruit. But then afterwards, the problem is, what happens if you get a few, you know how it is. Yeah, but
there's one Alavi Shemo in Yehuda.
Yeah.
He said, "Don't touch. I'll get.
Yeah.
Alavi, Arab guy.
Yeah.
Now they're renting
And you tell
Yeah.
me when you go to buy food, don't touch out. Tell me what you want.
Yeah, that's what it is. Very interesting. Okay. Yeah, but many times you have to actually yeah. So he says like this. He says, yeah, you're not going to be Mechayiv Maaser. Three. Yeah. Yeah, but for short. Yeah. So he said no problem. He says like this. If right now he wants to buy it, kana he acquires it. Now he can't give it back because it's already chayiv maaser. Now he can't give the maaser because it already went down in price. So how does he do it exactly? Right? That means he says hakeitzan he has to take off the maaser and he has to give him the maaser, right? That he separated and then he gives it back to the guy. Because basically the second that he took it and now if he's going to be chayav maaser and now he wants to give it back, now it went down in value. Because beforehand it was 100 and now it becomes like 90 because he had to take off the maaser. Right? Well, 90%, right? Whatever it was, right? So therefore, so he has to take it out, he has to give him. Right? He says, I don't understand you. The second that he has in mind to koneh, he's going to be koneh. Some Ravoshi says, what are we talking about? Right? We're talking about somebody in the Shamayim, like Rav Safra. Which means the second that he wanted to do that, that's it. Gamar belibo. The second he was gomer belibo that he wanted to buy it, that's already enough. Why? He didn't actually buy it. In his heart, he wanted to buy it. And the second that he wants to buy it in his heart, dover emet ilvavo. Even in his heart, he's going to be dover emet. And therefore, boom, he's going to come and he's going to buy it. Even though he didn't, meaning, if you look at the guy, you don't know if he's going to buy it or not. He's looking around, no. That's it. No. The second that his heart said that he wants to buy it, come on, there's nothing to talk about.
The whole thing is a dover emet.
Yeah. Mishnah. There's a Mishnah on bottom of Pechet Amud Aleph, 88a on the Mishnah on the bottom. A siton. We're talking about somebody that's selling foods and drinks in sitonaut. Even nowadays they call it, right? It's like basically the wholesale, right? Mekaneach midotav. So he's going to be obligated to come and to dry off the kli midah, right? Echad l'shoshim yom. Meaning he has to clean the measuring, all these things. He has to clean them once a month, right? To balabait echad l'shtem chodesh. But a balabait that obviously is doing much less in quantities, it's going to be once every 12 months. Rashba gomer Rav Shimon Gamliel comes and he says chiluf advarim, the opposite. The siton that he's going to be obligated to do it once every 12 months. The balabait is once every 30 days. Okay? He wants to say, no, because basically the balabait, meaning that it's a balabait that's selling and it's not a sitonaut. Right? So basically it's a balabait that he's selling a little bit from his house. Imagine a guy comes and he sells an open shop, a pop shop, a little bit from his, from in-house. So now basically he wants to say that it's much less, which is going to be left over in the sitonai, because since it's always being used, so it gets cleaned much more. So that's why you have to do it even less cleaning than the one of the balabait. Okay? What about a storekeeper? Right? So he said twice, right? A week. Okay? So he says here, and he has to clean also Shabbat, right? Which is going to be wiping it down once a week. And he has to actually clean the muznaim, which is the mishkal, the weight between each time. Okay, now again, nowadays obviously these things change. We've got everything's electrical and this and it's a completely different world. So Amar Shvak says when you know these words belach only if something which is actually moist. Aval biyavesh if it's dry, meaning if you're putting dry things there, no problem. You understand? You just if it's okay, but even dust is going to become mamash. So much dust that it's gonna change the mamash the weight. Okay. If it's a diamond, yes. If it's a diamond, yes. You're right. 100%. Yeah, 100%. No, obviously it's tabrut, 100%. right? Pechet amubet, yeah, 88b. V'chayav la'achriya lo, right? Now he's obligated to come into tilt for the favor of the koneh tefach, right? What does that mean? Even more than it is, even if it's going to be one tefach. Ya shokel lo ayin be'ayin. So if he's going to be shokel, right, ayin be'ayin, which means, right, exactly, okay, well, in a place where they're allowed to do so. Noten lo girumin. So he has to give mamash like a tip, you know, like a mamash a little tiny bit. Hechal la'aseret la'asara belach, 1/10 in lach and 1/20 in yavesh. So it's wow, yeah, interesting. I mean, mamash, he has to add on more. Now we understand why Chavetz Chaim, you know, that he had a store, and then after he had a store, he wasn't able to keep it up because he was going bankrupt. He had too much losses. Why? He was always so much makpi that he never wanted to, you know, like with the exact. He wanted to make sure that he's giving them their. He was always losing money. It was he had to close shop. Yeah. Makom shenagu lamod bedaka lo yamud begasa. If there's a minhag that they use a small scale or a small utensil for measuring, don't use a big one. Because Salom do if it's a big one, don't use a small one. Limcho, right? If they come and they make it straight, lo yigdosh, don't make a gadush. Right? Yigdosh is like this, right? The gadush is maleh gadush. That's what is the terminology. Overflowing, right? And the mochek is like to erase. Well, how do you erase? Right? You flush, right? So lo yimcho. Okay, fine. Menanamile says the Gemara. Pechet amubet the Gemara says the Gemara. Menanamile. How do we know these words? Shakish says Shakish. Amarkab. The pasuk says, "Even shelama v'tzedek yelach." What does that mean? Tzadek mishelcha v'tenlo. What does that mean? You have to be betzedek. And when you're going to be with the betzedek, tenlo, then you give it to him. Right? That's what you're supposed to be. Yihachi, if so, ema seifa. Let's see the seifa. Hayashokel lo ba'ayin ba'ayin. If you're going to be shokel ayin ba'ayin, no tenlo, you're going to give him a little bit more. V'achrad, right? And if you're going to tell me it's midoraita, how is he giving him yayin ba'ayin? If midoraita, you have to actually come and give him extra. So how do you do ayin ba'ayin? Ayin ba'ayin means mamash like an eye for an eye, meaning mamash exact. How do you do that? But rather, Reisha wasn't minhag like that. That wasn't minhag. When was Shakish speaking about in the Seifa Yitman? Shokelo ayin ba'ayin noten lo girmi minal mina. We know these words. But Shakish, the pasuk says vatzedek, tzadek mishelcha v'tenlo. Okay, right? That means basically you're going to come, you have to give a little bit more. That's the concept. So now the Gemara is going to ask, Kama girumin. What is exactly now the girumin? How much is the tosefet that you're going to add on? How much is the extra that you're going to add on? So Amar Rabbi Abba bar Mamel Amarav Echa me'asara belitra belach la'asara litrin. He says it's 1/10 of a litra in the liquids for 10 liters. So basically, it's like 1/10 of a liter for every 10 liters. Okay, so he says chelek echad mimea. So it's basically 1%. Okay, again, you're adding 1%. That's what it is. Echad la'asara belach ve'echad la'sim yavesh. So we're going to ask the question, what's the case? Are we talking 1/10 of lach for 10 in lach, which is again going to come out 100th? And 1/20th for yavesh for 20 of yavesh, right? So it's going to be like 200. Or is it going to be 1/10 of a litra on every 10 litrin, right? And on 20 litrin, right? So we don't actually have the answer to this. It's a teiku. We don't know. Yeah, we don't know. So therefore, it comes out when you're selling something dry, you cannot be mechayev the mocher because he's muhsak to add on more than one to the arbamot, 1 in 400s. Because basically, remember who's muhsak? The one that's whenever you have a teiku means we don't have an answer. So usually, if we don't have an answer, whoever's muhsak in the money, whoever has the money in his hand, he's always the winner. Because you're the one that's motzi, you're the one that's trying to take it out from him. So if it's going to be like that, he comes and he says, so since it's a teiku, you cannot obligate him even 1 in 400. Okay? So Amar Rabbi Levi says Rabbi Levi, Kashe onshan shel midot yoter onshan shel arayot. This is something incredible. Yeah, mamash, this is a Gemara which is powerful. The Gemara is saying that it's much more worse, right? The midot, meaning that a person is going to come and cheat with the scales and all those things, more than the onesh of arayot.
Wow.
That's what you just said? Hashe onshan shel midot yoter onshan shel arayot. Why? Sheze ne'emar bahen ha'el, because it says ki et kol ha'toavot ha'el, we're talking about arayot. Veze ne'emar bahen, and this to do with the mishkalot, which we just read, it says ki toavat Hashem Elokai kol ose elle. So he comes and he says, it doesn't say el. He says el is moreh al avera chamura. But elle, which is you're adding an extra hey, is even longer. So it's even a much stricter. Umay mashma de hay el. So he says, one second, but how do you know that el is kashe? So he said, right, lakach. He took the ele haaretz. right? And also he comes and he says now to do with arayot. Arayot, it's written ha'ele, as it says, ki kol asher ya'aseh mikol hatovot ha'ele v'nichletu. So it's also written ele. Right. So that means if you're going to tell me it's because of el and ele, it's also written ele by arayot. He says no. Midot mikaret. He says the ele by arayot is coming to exclude the averav midot mishkalim which are psulim. That it's also a toeva, and there, but it doesn't get karet. Meaning there we know that arayot they get karet. If somebody cheats on the business, he doesn't get karet. It's not the same. Arayot, a person does immoral relations, he gets karet. He gets karet from a shamayim. Right? Okay, there's karet yomeh, karet deshaneh, there's different types of karet. 100%. But at the end of the day, even though it's going to be more chamur, but you don't get the same death penalty. Meaning it's not karet. It's not karet. Yeah? Usually anyway. No, yes, exactly. The weight is not karet. The arayot is karet. Right? But not the weight. The weight is not. Right. Yeah, it tells us. Yeah.
You know, but honestly,
but this question, by the way, what he just asked now, that's the question of the Gemara. No, but listen carefully. This is what the Gemara just asked now. If you just tell me now, what's more strict, weights or arayot? Which one? The weights. That's what we said. So now the question is, why is it that there's no karet? If you told me that on weights there's no karet, so why is it more strict? He says the atam You know why? Arayot, a person could do teshuvah.
Yes.
Weights, you can't do teshuvah. How do you do teshuvah? You know how many people came into the store? You know how many people come in? They come in. They do. Who are you going to pay back? You're going to. I have to pay back. Who are you going to start paying back? There's hundreds of people came back. There could be a tourist that came out. Or he's in Honolulu. Where are you going to find him now to pay him back? So you can't do teshuvah. That's why it's worse. That's what he's saying. That he gives shabbat teshuvah. Okay, so you're right. There is a Kaf HaChaim that the Kaf HaChaim says you have to give it to the public. You do something to the public. Because you give it to the Reshut Rabim, it belongs to the public, it belongs to everybody. Amar Rabbi Levi, says Rabbi Levi, Kashe gezel ediot yoter migezel gavot. Do you know that it's worse to steal from a regular person than to steal from Ekdesh? He says, why? Because when you come and you're going to sin, right? First there's the chet. But that's even before the milah. Milah is like benefiting from it. But when you're going to come and you're going to benefit from the kodshim, you first have milah and then the chet. It first says milah and then the chet. So here it says in the footnote, he says like this. He says by stealing people's money, it says nefesh ki techeta u'ma'ala mal b'Hashem v'chikesh ma'mito, right? Nefesh ki techeta, and then afterwards ma'ala mal, right? That means first you have the chet and then you have milah. By the chet of milah, it's written nefesh ki tim'ol mal. First, it's written as milah and v'chateah, and then he did the chet. So he comes and he says, so therefore, the one that does the stealing from your friend, he's called a choteh even before the milah. So he's even worse of a choteh. He's worse of a sinner. Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Why?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because when you do like the weight of the mishkal, like you cheat in the mishkal, you're gonna cheat on everything.
Yeah.
You're talking misvara. You're talking about like the psychology behind it, which you're correct. Here,
everything else for him, it means nothing.
Yeah. Even though you should know that there's a Tosafot against that. Tosafot Mefurash says, and this actually happened here in Miami. There's a mashkiach that he suspected on arayot. Can he still be a mashkiach rashut or not?
No.
And the answer is yes. It's a Tosafot and Rambam. They both say the reason why is because many times there are certain averot that people, it could be that they're going to give themselves in because they have a strong yitzhara, but it doesn't mean that they're going to do something else. So one of the proofs is the Gemara. The Gemara says that, for example, the Gemara says, we're talking about during the second Bet HaMikdash, is the Gemara in Sukkah, if you remember. What happened is that they were doing a contest. They had to run up to the Mizbeach in order to, what happened? Somebody came and he took a knife and he stabbed the other Kohen going up. The father came in running and he said, Tum'ah on the Mizbeach. They came, they grabbed him out and they took him out before he died. And they went and they said, Ribono Shalom, did you just realize that they're more attuned, they're more ichpat lahem yoter, mamash, like, like they're more worried about Tum'ah than murder. The guy just came and murdered. He killed the guy. And it was his own son. Meaning the father came in and said, Tum'ah, we have to get him out before. What does that mean? Sometimes you see it, and by the way, you do see it sometimes. Meaning sometimes you'll see that a person could come and he could do certain averot. But for example, kosher, no. You see it. You understand? You see it. So now the Gemara comes and he says like this. So he comes, but by the way, the reason why he says that here is that he says that when you're going to steal from the individual, the second you picked it up, you already did the stealing, right? Because again, you made the kinyan, and therefore you actually stole it, and therefore you're called the choteh. When you steal from the hekdesh, it never comes out of the reshut of HaKadosh Baruch Hu until you actually do something. And that's why it's considered first milah, and then it's the choteh. Okay, that's the concept. Now he says, "V'amar Rabbi Levi," says Rabbi Levi, that look how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to be like a human being. HaKadosh Baruch Hu birech Yisrael be-22. HaKadosh Baruch Hu came and he blessed Bnei Yisrael with 22 letters. Ve'kilelam b'shmoneh. But he gave them a klala with 8 letters. How do we see this? He came and he gave them a bracha of 22 letters. Im bechukotai telechu. It starts with the aleph, which is the ot harishona of the Torah, until va'olech etchem komiyut, which is the taf. Aleph ataf. How many letters are there in the alphabet? 22. So he says v'kilam b'shmoneh, but he only gave them what?
8.
One second. V'kilam b'shmoneh, he cursed them with 8. V'im bechukotai timasu ad bechukotai gala nafsham. It was basically going to be the ot vav. There's a ve'im bechukotai timasu. This is number 6 until the letter mem, right? Which is going to be only 8 letters. Because if you go from the vav to the mem, it's only going to be 8 letters, right? Ve'ilu Moshe Rabbeinu b'Moshe Rabbeinu berecham b'shmoneh. He blessed them with 8 letters. V'kilam b'22, and then he cursed them with 22. Berecham b'shmoneh. He blessed them with 8 letters. Vaya peitet amud aleph on the top, 89a on the top. Vaya im shamuat tishma, right? Which is, by the way, this is this week's parasha. Look how mina shamayim that we're reading about tomorrow's parasha, and it's tomorrow. This is tomorrow's daf, and we're talking about mamash the same day, the exact same day. Look how it is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he does everything mamash the day. Mamash, not in the week, the day. So he comes and he says, "Vayayim shamuat tishma," and which is going to be again the vav, the ad leovdam. He's the exact opposite. HaKadosh Baruch Hu started the klalot with the vav and finished with the mem. Moshe Rabbeinu started the brachot with the vav and he finished with the mem. He says, "Kilam b'chol 22," but he cursed them with all the 22 letters because it says, right? Vayayim lo tishma, but it says if you vaya again starting with a vav ad ve'en koneh, but it finished with a vav as well. With a basically with a hey, right, which is basically meaning that he went through the entire alphabet, but the other way, meaning he started with a vav and he went until the hey, which is the next one. So he went through the entire alphabet, right, which is again the exact same thing, right, as well. Have a wonderful day.